Hi! Welcome to the Kingdon Radio Hour. My name is Angel, better known as Tumblr user TV Gremlin. I also go by Debutante Girl on AO3. You might have seen me over there. This is the Kingdon Radio Hour podcast. I've been thinking about doing this for a while, and this is kind of our test episode, or I guess ours, just me. This is kind of my test episode for it. I'm really excited. The agenda for today, I was going to talk a little bit about the Masterdoc, which some of you might know about, some of you might not. I was maybe going to discuss the leaks and just thoughts about the season and goals for the pod. So I guess I'll start with an introduction. My name is Angel. If you are in the Kingdon fandom, you might have seen me, or more likely you probably have seen me. I'm really up in its business. I have a lot of free time. I am a mod in the Kingdon Nation group, so you might have seen me in there. I am the author of the Evie series, so if any of you guys read Family Fluff, you might have seen me on AO3. Depends. You also might have seen me in your comments. I'm up in your comments. And then, obviously, just posting on regular Tumblr. But anyone who's in the Kingdon Nation group, you've probably seen me around. I have been a fangirl for about a decade. I'm a real-life healthcare worker. I talk a little bit about this in my blog, but I'm an inpatient phlebotomist. It's really hard. But one of the reasons I love the show so much, and one of the reasons I love the ship so much, I'm really passionate about fandom organization and community in fandom and fandom history, which is the reason I created the Masterdoc. I just knew that we would want this information cataloged because I, in my infinite nerdiness, would try to go back and look for things like, I think it was Frank's locker combination, and originally it would be like, well, I just have it in my likes, or I have a screenshot of it, or I have this, but it became so quickly so difficult to find things, and I would want to reference them for posts or talk about them with newer fans, and it just became a problem, hence the Masterdoc, which let's talk a little bit about. So the Masterdoc, as I just said before, is a project to kind of document fandom history and also just have all these crazy weird things that keep happening in one spot. Because what are we doing? I think especially after the month and week we've had as a fandom with all of these interviews that don't even get me started, I could go on forever, make me feel insane. It can feel so easy to be like, what even is the evidence that the ship could go canon now? Us going canon is a whole other topic. I'm not really going to get into it. My opinion on that waffles and changes a lot. Again, anyone who's seen me comment under things knows that depending on the day, depending on the vibes, I can be like, we are going canon. It is happening 100% to we're never going to go canon, but I'm here anyway, which I'm somewhere in between. It can really easily feel like there is no evidence for this ship and that we're just making mountains out of eye contact here. Not molehills, mountains out of molehills, mountains out of lingering romantic eye contact. Patrick, why are you making these acting choices if you think it's fraternal? Taylor, why are you making these acting choices if you think it's fraternal? Losing my mind. Anyway, so I want a place for that. I want to talk a little bit about Frank's locker combination to start, because what the hell? I saw a post about it today that I can't remember who posted it or even what the substance was, but I saw like a screenshot of his hand that was like, I'm still here, and his bare hand. And I have been thinking about it all day because he's wearing his wedding ring when he walks into the hospital in his street clothes with the Pittsburgh Penguins hat, after that scene of him in triage, which, oh my god, so good. And screaming at my TV when it happened. And he comes walking in, and then he's bare left hand typing in his locker combo. And it hasn't been addressed by anyone on production, even if there's that great interview where Patrick is asked, like, Langdon isn't wearing his ring, fans have noticed this. Is this a continuity error? And he's like, just keep watching. Which is interesting because then, shortly, like about a week later, we have the Gail King clip where he goes, Langdon is very happily married, and it's just, what are we doing? You know what I mean? I am of the personal belief that this means he's divorced, that him wearing the ring when he walks in initially is the continuity error, not this very pointed shot that someone would have caught. Maybe the shot is flipped. I don't know. I just think that it needs to be addressed by someone on production if he's not going to be revealed to be divorced this season, because it makes no sense. Also, the locker combo being Becca's birthday, in the Masterdoc, I say that this is a production error. I think that it is someone who just had the same set of numbers stuck in their head. Maybe it's a personal shout out. Maybe it's someone's mom's birthday or their kids or whatever. That seems very the pit. But to me, I have a hard time reading into it just because it's a strip of numbers. But it is also still Becca King's birthday. And the optics of Dr. Frank Langdon typing in his locker combination with a bare left hand, and it's the locker combination of the woman who 10 months ago made him feel like he was good and worthwhile and was the one good part of that terrible day, and who has been thinking about him for the past 10 months and talking about him because Mel didn't make any connections while he was gone. She doesn't have friends at work. She is lonely and sad, and people don't know how to engage with her the way Langdon does. So for him to be crouched on the ground, putting in his locker combination to his new life, and for it to be like the key to Mel's heart, her sister, it's too poetic. It destroys me. I wanted to touch briefly on her socks, which is the second entry in the master doc. I will look at those images, and every time I'm like, yeah, she's a blue sock and a green sock on, and it is probably to show that Mel's whimsical, but also blue and green are the Kingdon colors this season. Like, it's not debatable. Also, it is the colors of his shirts both seasons. So, and then sometimes I'll be like, she's wearing the same color socks. So, I don't know. I imagine that that is not an intentional choice, but I am of the belief that there might be like a rogue Kingdon shipper on costumes or hair or production or just someone involved who is a lower level intern who, you know, is one of us and maybe, you know, looks at Tumblr from time to time. Maybe he's read a couple fics. Maybe they've read Two Player by Avocado Moon. You know what I mean? Like, read some of the big three. Maybe they've checked out Rivers and Roads and they're giving little things. This happens sometimes. I think about the Rogue Supernatural translator a lot when it comes to this fandom. Yeah, okay. Plushies. The plushies are a cathedral. The plushies are beautiful. The plushies are too pure for this world. I refuse to believe that's not intentional. I know it's not. It's a whimsical production assistant, but it's too beautiful to not think it's intentional. You are too pure for this earth. I love you, plushies. Ringwatch 2026 is the next entry. Don't need to discuss that too much. This is kind of more of a fandom history. But again, want to put an open call. If anyone knows the origin of the Ringwatch image that's in the doc, please let me know. I want to credit the original person. I could not find it, and it made me so sad. P7 King APFL is the next entry. I remember being like, is it too good to be true? Is this real? Because at this point, I believe we were in the drought. I believe we had no Kingdom scenes at the moment while the show was airing. I believe Langdon was in triage. We didn't yet know like when like Becca wasn't in the teasers. Tal was posting about being on the show quite a bit and still is, but we weren't there yet. It wasn't happening yet. Why was Becca hurt? Why was Becca there? What's going on with her? Is she going to be critical? Again, there was that whole like, that looks like Becca's braid with the patient that Giovanni misses who codes of like, who is it? What's going to be wrong with Becca? Ultimately, the UTI storyline is, I think, the best option they could have gone for. I'm obsessed with it. It's so good. I also just think that Mel and Frank being forced to, like, kind of talk about sex. Whoever wrote that, I love you forever. 1,000 kisses. I am indebted to you. But, again, just looking at this image, I am so transported back to that time. There was, I don't even know if I was in Kingdon Nation yet, but there was so much joy. It was so fun to be online and be like, and I remember like not wanting to get my hopes up. And now if I could go back and tell past Angel, I'd be like, girl, again, shit's about to get so good. I'm also looking at, if you're looking at the doc, these are in the document, it is images I created or didn't create, but you know, ripped from the Pit fan page. That's where I get all my stills, by the way. It's the Pit fan page. And, or maybe We in the Pit, one of the two major Pit fan pages. Little tangent, but I feel like it bears repeating. I've been in fandom for about a decade. I had unrestricted internet access from a very young age and pretty quickly found fanfiction and fanfiction.net back in the day, real ones know, and have spent a lot of time in very niche spots of fandom and often get really, really into it. So if you go back on my YouTube channel or if you do digging on me, which I hope none of you do because it's frankly quite boring. I've spent a lot of time in like the Office fandom and the Bear fandom and Succession fandom and have made a lot of content for it, most of which isn't good and I don't recommend. I come to this with experience, and I also joined the Pit fandom. My Pit fan origin story is kind of boring, but Yeah, I'll just give you the footnotes. I have chronic pain, and at the time, I was kind of stuck in bed for a little while. I wasn't really able to walk super well for about a month, and I was on HBO Max and had seen that, okay, The Pit. I watched the trailer because they were at the time promoting it pretty heavily, and I think I was probably going back to rewatch Succession, and I was like, let me give it a shot. And at the time, episodes 1 through, I believe, 5 had aired. So I watched episode 1, and then I binged the entire show, completely fell in love. I also remember on that first watch being like, people are going to ship Mel and Langdon. This is going to be the big ship. I can already feel it. I believe I went on AO3. Shortly thereafter. I remember going on AO3, there being one page of fics, and I remember reading one of, like, the big avocado moon fics when it was, like, 2 days old, so distinctly, and being like, this is incredible. Also, a lot of the fanfic tropes that you know and love, carpooling, shit, stuff about Becca, them going to IKEA, that is ancient text, early fandom, early Kingdon fandom, boots on the ground, like, that stuff started so early. If you were there, you know. But I watched from episode 5 onward and watched every single Thursday from then on out, and I think I've seen season 1 like 6 or 7 times all the way through. There was a period of time where I just watched it over and over and over and over and over again. But a lot of the Pit fan accounts I found really early when they were brand new and started following them. I believe I started following the Pit fan page when it had like 200 followers or something. Like, it was early. I also I've spent a lot of time in the Reddit fandom, which is so hostile to Kingdon. Don't go there. They hate us. Like, don't recommend. I'm sure most of you don't go on Reddit, but, like, don't go on Reddit. Couldn't recommend less. Anyway, I don't think any of you care about that, but this is my podcast. Okay, so back to the beautiful, beautiful cathedral, C7 King APFL. Best day of my life was when someone sent me an asking what that meant, and I got to explain it, which is kind of where what's in the Masterdoc is kind of ripped from that post. The day these stills dropped, again, I'm at work. I'm always at work posting. Who isn't? And pulled them down and ripped them from the page, screenshotted. I remember sitting there and circling these and being like, I hope I'm not wrong. Is these stills revealing this? This was such a good day in the fandom, such a beautiful day in the fandom. For a long time, it was like, Becca's gonna have appendicitis, Becca's gonna have appendicitis. I don't think any of us really saw the UTI coming. Someone might have correctly guessed it, and I just didn't see it, which if you did, I owe you $10. But APFL Franklington, life-altering, incredible. The next entry in the Masterdoc is The Drought and the Feast, which I've kind of alluded to a little bit. I felt it was really important to catalog this because if I were to join the fandom today, which, what a joy that would be, I think that there are some posts that would be downright intelligible because we're waiting for the feast. What are you talking about? And I also needed a place to include a discussion of Meredith, who, again, I've said before, will not get a spot in the Masterdoc. It feels weird. She's like a real person who does stuff outside the fandom and has a career and, didn't consent to be in my silly little Masterdoc. But her contribution to the fandom cannot be understated, and just from like a factual standpoint, she has done a lot for us in the sense of like, she is a Kingdon who will report and be like, this is happening this week, this is happening this week. And whether you agree with her ratings or agree with the way she hypes things or talks about things is completely up to you. I think we all have our own opinion. I think those opinions are dynamic. Again, we're all people. She's a person. But The Drought and the Feast, so a lot of 2XO2 and 2XO7, during this time there was no Kingdom Seeds of Substance. Obviously we have that incredible scene in the first episode, which at the time felt insane, and as time goes on only feels crazier. Cannot believe that happened. Sold to Dr. Langdon. I remember watching that scene, and my Sid Carmi-pilled brain was like, this means nothing. I'm gonna get gaslit. This sucks. I'm being baited. And I remember being so mad and also being so into it, obviously. But even just through the way HBO talks about it, it is very clearly that line was to show that, like, Mel is sold to Dr. Langdon. What a line. What a scene. Her grabbing his bicep, rent-free in my head. And then, obviously, we have him treating her ancient Kingdon text. That is, like, not even, like, I think of one of my personal favorite fanfics is Divine Pity in a Boat. I read a lot of Kingdon fic. Divine Pity in a Boat, which is, if you have not read it, stop what you're doing, turn this off, go read it. Also, go read everything by Avocado Moon. And also just, like, go read Kingdon on IO3. It's a well of beautiful work. It's so good. It's so good. But Divine Pity in a Boat, she breaks her nose and he treats her. And that, I remember I read that fic when it dropped. And it is unreal. So for that to then be in the show, I will always say fanfic hospital, fanfic hospital, fanfic hospital. But we get that, and then there's I think that for new fans who join eventually, it'll be hard to understand that that was 5 real life weeks of nothing. And that is uncool. How dare you? Like, John Wills, no Wiley in your walls. What are we talking about? And we were all waiting for the feast, with XO7 being an appetizer. I also think that there should be an entry for the fact that we didn't know that episode 13 would have a break room scene because of the way the screeners were dropped. So Meredith couldn't tell us until, I believe, like the week of 12 aired. And we were unaware that there's more. Later, when I'm done talking about the doc, I'm going to talk about the leaks and the fact that we don't know. And there was a lot of unknowns going into the season, which made it so much more fun. Or even like this scene, we don't even know how long the scene's going to be. Is it going to be a long, long scene, or is it going to be like, 30 seconds or this or that? Or even the week, real ones know, the week that we found out Frank was into Revolutionary War reenacting, we were not tipped off about that. Or if we were, not in the manner that we knew how big of a deal it was going to be, and our understanding of their dynamic, which cathedrals, that moment is life-altering and earth-shattering, and I, not even being dramatic, think about it every day. Learning little details about these characters is always so impactful and special, and I think it was that moment where we were like, why would this be included if not to show they are soulmates? Because it humanizes Frank in this very, like, cute, sweet way, but it also kind of shows us that, like, it's nerd for nerd, but it really, in a big way, kind of recontextualized our understanding of them, and again, like, gave us all this fan art and these fics, because originally it was like, Frank's gonna go to the Ren Fair because he loves Mel, and it's like, no, Frank's gonna go to the Ren Fair because he loves history, and he's gonna have so much fun, and it is life-altering. I feel so bad for the Langdon kids. The Masterdoc should also include the week that we found out what Frank's second child gender and name. Penny Langdon, you will always be famous to me. It is such a joy to go back and read a fic and be like, God, remember when her name was Millie? Remember? She was Millie in my fic. I did go back and change it to correct it because I believe I posted that, and like 2 days later we found out her real name, and I was like, let me fix that. But yeah, Penny and Tanner, you long-suffering kids, I'm so sorry. Okay, Braidgate is the final entry in the doc as of now. I intend to include a doc for the week. I have like a draft for what I'm calling the bad week, which is that string of interviews we were experiencing last week. Don't even really want to talk about them. I am of the opinion we should stop listening to interviews because the text of the show is telling us to ship them. And even if they're not going to go canon, and even if the actors don't see it, they are playing it romantic, whether they like it or not. So this is what's happening, sorry. And I have been in the Sid Carmi fandom for too long to let interviews drag me down. It's not about that, actually. Yeah, Braidgate, my personal opinion on Braidgate is that it is a weird editing choice, and that the reason it looks like someone stuck their fingers in her braid and pulled is because a hairstylist did that. In episode 13 especially, you can really see, like, you look at Issa, like that wear and tear on their face. They're trying to do what they did in season 1, where they make them look more haggard as the shift goes on. And I think that they realize that Mel doesn't have that as much. And a hairstylist stuck her finger in the braid and pulled. Now, were they alone in the break room together that we didn't see? And did she immediately come out with a smile on her face, her whimsy back, and her braid messed up? Yes. Does I head to AO3 for what happened there, because something happened. Also in the Master Doc, I have my favorite gif of all time. I'm looking at each other as they open the door. Bill and Langdon are married. No one talked to me. Abby Langdon, who? Okay, now I want to discuss the leaks a little. So, let's move over here. Obviously, over Easter weekend, we got that incredible scene of them, and it's about, I believe, because not that anyone cares. I was out of town when those dropped, and I was sleeping on the floor in a living room and trying to go to bed because I knew I'd have to be up early the next morning when a mutual who I adore messaged me and was like, get on Tumblr right now. And I opened my phone, and obviously it's right there. Also, more spoilers dropped that night. There was other spoilers. I believe it was one account who is now banned. R.I.P. We love here. Thank you for your service. But after that week of the announcement that Mohan is leaving, don't even get me started. The 3 interviews, Taylor, I guess Patrick wasn't in an interview, but him resharing that disgusting article, Noah saying that he thinks they're fraternal. No one asked. I mean, I'm sure the interviewer asked, but we didn't ask. And then immediately after, we have the break room scene dropping, which is, I mean, we don't always get things right the first time. and that smile from Frank and the way that and I don't want you to leave, just, there is something, it's buzzier than a motherfucking bee, okay? Shit's crazy. So, fast forward to Easter weekend, and we get this clip. Now, this clip, my 2 cents is that this is either from a press screening in a theater, which I don't know if any have happened, so I could be completely wrong, or someone just ripping it off of a press screener. I have no idea why it's so poor quality, why it looks like everything about how that scene was released is a beautiful mystery. There's been minor speculation it's AI. I do not believe it's AI. In my opinion, it looks too good to be AI, but again, time will tell. We also know that discussion of them watching the fireworks happened in an interview that I cannot find, but it's an old Taylor interview where she talking about their bond. This might be they really need each other. Langdon needs her more than he realizes interview. Obviously, it's not my personal favorite current interview, which is they need each other more desperately than romantically. What are we even talking about? Hello? There's some things I wish I could offer commentary on, but the commentary is my eyes are bugging out of my head and my brain's exploding because what are we even doing? What's going on? Um, but the leaked clip is insane. And while my 2 cents are that it's not an indication that we're going canon, it's not really an indication of anything other than Frank's deep unending love for Mel, which I think he has. I think that this is a season that shows that their bond is just that strong, that their love is just that real. I struggle to understand any context where this isn't romantic because you just don't look at your friends like that. You just don't look at your siblings like that. And whether it was on purpose or not, these characters, they're playing these characters like they're falling in love. And Frank standing outside looking at Mel, looking down at her lips. I believe the clip is also slowed. I refuse to believe that clip is not slowed down. If the show airs and we get that lingering long shot of him looking at her lips, I will eat my words. I will say we're going canon. But for now, I think that it's probably slowed down for emphasis. It looks like the clip kind of looks like it was filmed on a toaster, so you know. But yeah, Mel, that scene is just so impactful. I think that for me, at least, thinking back on this season, actually, Frank is made soft by Mel. Her character does, in a way, exist to soften him, especially coming back from rehab. But there is something so beautiful about the fact that Mel spent 10 months so lonely with no one to talk to. I think one of the most devastating scenes in the whole season is when she's talking to Robbie and he says, "Who do you have to talk to when things get hard?" And she says, "No one." And he walks away. And the Dana scene, which I found to be very unsatisfying, but definitely serves its purpose. He sits with her in the mess, and he sits with her in her hardships and shows up for her in such a big way. And it's really easy to understand that Mel, an orphan and primary caregiver to her sister, and a fucking doctor for crying out loud, probably hasn't had anyone do in years. At the very least, she hasn't had anyone do it for 10 months, which is far too long, but it could be a year, if not like a decade. So Mel to finally have that person. And I think that it's so beautiful how easily Frank just fits into that. He doesn't do that for other characters. He meets Mel and it's instant. I think about the first shot that we have of them together where he's leaning up against the back of the charge desk and he turns over and looks at her and you see that look in his eye. I think there's just a part of him that's like, this is my person. Now, is he married to another woman? Sure. I will start caring about Frank Langdon's marriage when he starts caring about it, okay? But the ending scene of fireworks and the rumored scene, again, talking about leaks of him saying, "Thank you for being there for me." I think that she is kind of saving him and is kind of the person who comes in and shows him that he's meant to be at the pit, he's meant to be a doctor, he's meant to do this. And they are each other's lifeline right now. And that started in season 1 and in season 2, it is just completely solidified. Now that I'm done chatting about, the ooey gooey feelings, I'm going to reference my favorite post of all time, which is if I was Abby Langdon and I was sat down and shown all of the Kingdon clips from season 1 to, from all of season 1 and all of season 2, I would think my husband is having an emotional affair because he is. Like, there is not, if I was Abby Langdon, I would not be able to let this slide. Not realizing this is very stream of consciousness podcast, guys. It's kind of time to wrap things up. Thank you all for being here. I'm looking forward to season 3. I think it's worth noting that the time in between seasons is not that long. Press will start earlier than you think because there's so much momentum behind it. Season 2 is already kind of a circus. Did you guys understand that season 3 will probably be a bigger circus? With Mohan leaving, it's going to be different and arguably worse. the circus will probably start a little bit earlier. I would not be surprised if HBO tries to milk this and maybe trailers or teasers come out just a little bit earlier than usual. But at the very least, press cycles will be starting in December and we will be full steam ahead. So we're going to have the summer off, we're going to have the fall off, but it is going to be busy, busy, busy before you know it. Kingdom way back on our screens before you know it. We do not know what season 3 brings. Obviously, there are rumors that TikTok comment rumor that apparently one of the writers of the Becca episodes is like a picture of Mel and a picture of Langdon are the only things on our board right now. Not Mel and Langdon, just them separately. So I think their connection will continue to grow. It is like such the beating heart of the show, especially with Mohan leaving, and especially with, in my opinion, their fumbling of Trinity. I love her as a character. I think that Issa is so talented, and I think that Mel softens Langdon and Whitaker is supposed to soften Trinity, but because of the way Trinity is written and played, it is so much harder to soften her. Langdon has that big heart, he's the dad, he wants to be softened, meanwhile Trinity has that shield up. But hopefully we can all enjoy a summer with no more discourse. I am so tired. And then looking forward again. This is the first episode, working title Kingdon Radio Hour. I imagine that when I post this, I'll include some things about what I'm hoping for the next episode. I'd love to talk about more minute details of fandom. I'd love to talk about fan fiction, mine and others. Would love to talk about when the finale eventually airs. Love to do an episode about that. And just, more minutia. Yeah, hopefully y'all enjoyed this. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate if you made it to the end of me yapping. I love you forever. You're my favorite person ever. Kisses, kisses, kisses. I will see you all on Tumblr. I will see you all in Kingdom Nation. I will see you on AO3. Thank you so much. Bye.